This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Make another smart choice with Auto Quote Explorer to compare rates from multiple car insurance companies all at once. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast. I am your host, Joanne Crone, and I'm so happy that you joined me here today. Hello, Lolas. How are you? Oh, I have such a good episode for you today. But before I get into it, I want to ask a quick favor. Can you take a minute or two to review this podcast, either an Apple podcast or on Spotify? When you review it, it helps push the podcast up in people's algorithms. So if you could take a few minutes to do that, I would be so appreciative. Let's get on with the show. Let's get on with the real issue here, because right now, maybe you've lost it again. Like, you have lost your temper. You are overwhelmed. You feel like every single thing is on you. The kids are fighting. The noise is relentless and nobody is coming to help. And something in you just snaps because you're not even sure why it was that moment, that specific moment. Why did that break you? It's easy to call it stress. It's easy to say you are just tired, but stress alone doesn't cause the reaction. Something underneath does. It's the meaning that you assigned to the moment. And a lot of the times that meaning is, I'm completely alone in this. Have you felt that way before? That meaning, not the chaos itself, is what is firing your reaction. So in today's episode, we are going to see why we interpret chaos in our homes when our kids are fighting, why we see that as abandonment, how that interpretation fuels the escalation of our own emotions, and how to interrupt that I'm alone narrative. By the end of this episode, you're going to see exactly how your interpretations are shaping your reactions and what you can do differently. So stay with me. Let's get on with the show. So I am no stranger to chaos in my house. When my kids were a little bit younger, and even now, like when they're older, my daughter is 17 years old, my son is 12, and they will still have their moments of arguing back and forth, of refusing to eat dinner because they don't like it, of saying they'll do something on their own. And these are these moments where I just feel abandoned and alone. I remember a moment like 5 years ago where it was the end of the day. I think it's probably about 6 p.m. I was completely drained. I work from home, but it had been a stressful work day and I was waiting for my husband to come home. He is an engineer and he works outside the home and he frequently loses track of time. And when you have the coming home later because you didn't watch the clock combined with this complete chaos and arguing at home, like my kids were fighting with each other, screaming, slamming doors, blaming each other, and then pulling me in to take their side. Have you had this before? Where not only are your kids fighting, but they're looking to you to side with them. And you can see exactly why each of them is wrong, but you could also see why each of them is right too. You don't want to take sides. And so when you don't take sides, they're always like, well, you won't take my side and you always take his side. And like, she's so mean. And like, there is no winning at all in your kids' arguments. All I wanted at that time was quiet. I just wanted it to be quiet in the house. I didn't feel calm. I didn't feel physically or emotionally capable of regulating anyone else's emotions at that point. Like, I was having a hard time regulating mine with all the chaos, and my husband was not there. And if you are maybe a single parent and you don't have anyone there to back you up, it's extremely lonely. And every moment that my husband was late felt like this confirmation of something. I am doing this alone. That meaning is really what pushed me over the edge because I ended up not screaming at my kids, but I did scream. I went to the corner of my kitchen and I just yelled at the cupboards like this, like roar came out of me. And both of my kids, like, they're like, what happened? And are you okay? And I'm so sorry, Mom. And it just made me feel awful. Why can't I, a grown woman, control my emotions? Like, how am I right now scaring my kids? I got to tell you, looking back though, the kids' behavior wasn't the trigger, because if my kids were behaving that way at the beginning of the day, when I had all of this energy and maybe I had support, maybe I wasn't so worn down, I would have probably been able to handle it. So it's not my kids' fault because they're going to yell anyways. What happened there was the meaning that I assigned to that explosion. It was this feeling that this is all me. I'm alone. I am dead tired. It's an interpretation your brain makes when it scans the room and it doesn't feel any support. The other thought that was really driving my explosion is this thought that was fueled in shame. And I hear this a lot in our No Guilt Mom Inner Circle community. This idea that you should be able to do something to stop your kid's behavior. If I could only find the right words, if I could only say the right thing, if I could only be the right mom, they wouldn't be fighting with each other like this. Have you ever thought something like this? Like, you're not alone in it. Because once that interpretation fires, everything that happens next, it looks like more evidence of it. Because when I started thinking I'm alone, my brain will scan the room for more little pieces of me being alone. When I start thinking that something I should do should be able to stop it, if I tell my kids something and they push back, there you go. There's confirmation that I'm right. And it fuels this cycle that if we don't catch it, it will make us have the worst mood and be very, very hard to be around. It'll be hard for us to be around ourselves. So the kids fighting equaled the proof that I couldn't handle this situation. The slammed door equaled the proof that nobody cares about me. And being asked to take sides, it was proof that I was doing this wrong, that I should know a side to take. It fuels itself, the meanings that our brain makes. The brain is now building a case on why you are wronged. It is not processing the moment. And this isn't a weakness. This is just how human brains operate. They're doing their job. Your brain is looking for a threat. It found the threat, and now it's going to protect you against that threat. Also, one other thing is humans are wired to need support. Being alone while under threat is genuinely dangerous if you look at it from an evolutionary perspective. So when your brain registers, I'm alone and overwhelmed, it doesn't treat that as a convenience. It treats it as an emergency. And that's why you're all hyped up. That's why it's so hard to control your emotions in the moment, because emergencies call for survival reactions, not strategies. Any strategy that you know, and like I just had an episode last week where we talked about like, why do I know all this stuff and I still act this way? It is impossible to grab onto those strategies when you are just trying to survive in the moment. When you have this like fight or flight going on with you and you have built your case onto why you are the most horrible parent and you don't know what you're doing. I have to tell you, you do know what you're doing. And the actual trick in all this of calming yourself down or not letting you get up to this like state of just heightened alert is monitoring those thoughts, as well as, you know, paying attention to some of the signals that you need a little bit of a break, such as when I talk about my yelling incident occurred at the end of the day. I needed a little bit of a break. If it wasn't just so much as like going into the bathroom and shutting the door, I needed that break. My senses were completely overwhelmed. So coming up next, we're going to talk about how our interpretations of things fuel the escalation of our emotions. Hey parents, if you're like me, you might see your kids struggling with reading and ask, what's going on? Maybe you're even starting to wonder about dyslexia. You're not alone, and there is a way forward that doesn't involve yet another night of tears over homework and reading. I want to tell you about the Reading Guru. The Reading Guru offers live one-on-one online reading tutoring with Orton Gillingham certified teachers. Orton Gillingham reading tutoring is backed by research. It's the gold standard for helping kids with dyslexia and other reading gaps. The Reading Guru's tutors are master literacy specialists who tailor every lesson to your child's strengths, challenges, and interests. And they don't move on until your child gets it. And because sessions are online, finding time is easy. As a former elementary school teacher, I know how beneficial it is to have kids feel confident in reading. And the Reading Guru makes it so accessible. Whether your kid has been frustrated with reading for years or you're just beginning to worry, this could be the moment that changes everything. With the right help, your kid can become a great reader. Visit readingguru.com to sign up for a free consultation because every child deserves to crack the reading code.
This is a Monday.com ad. The same Monday.com designed for every team. The same Monday.com with built-in AI, scaling your work from day one. The same Monday.com with an easy and intuitive setup. Go to Monday.com and try it for free.
Looking to transform how you work out? At the Sculpt Society, we have workouts for every stage of life, from pregnancy and postpartum to perimenopause and midlife. We offer life stage fitness programs, expert-led nutrition, and thousands of classes that help you enjoy movement and feel strong at every stage, all from home. Use code MEGAN30 for your first month free on thesculptsociety.com. That's thesculptsociety.com. And start wherever you are. A release is waiting.
Emotion. Let's talk about how our emotions start to escalate. There's chaos in your home that's happening. Maybe it is your kids fighting. Maybe it's that you open the refrigerator and realize that you have nothing to make for dinner and everyone's telling you they're hungry and you're telling you you're hungry, you're exhausted. And then once that chaos starts, your brain assigns meaning to it. It starts telling it yourself a story. Maybe you look in the fridge, you don't have anything, and you start saying to yourself, oh my gosh, you're so stupid. You never plan ahead. Or why aren't you organized? Why aren't you on top of things? You're an adult. You should have this together by now. Do you see how hearing those things, it creates an emotion within you? And that emotion then needs release. It needs a way out. There's a saying, and I like to use this metaphor of a trash can. You can try to push your emotions down and push your emotions down and push them down, but pretty soon you can't push them down anymore and they're going to erupt. And that's when the yelling happens. Now, many moms think that yelling is the problem. It is actually the last step of a much larger chain. And every step in that chain was fueled by the interpretation of it, not the behavior. If chaos started and your interpretation of it was yep, they're kids, you wouldn't get to that yelling moment. But you can't also just logically think that in the moment because we have also built habits of thinking. Our brains, if you've heard the phrase neurons that fire together, wire together. If you have had something happen in your house, kids fighting, and the end result has been yelling, and that happens over and over again, that's a habit that's created. That's a neural pathway. And the more times that you recreate that habit, it's going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. Think of it like if you started at your front door and you had to get to your mailbox, but it had snowed 13 inches the night before. And guys, I'm making this up at the top of my head because I don't know snow. I think 13 inches, that'd be a lot, right? That'd be a lot. Living in Arizona all my life, I just don't know snow, but we'll say it's a lot. And you had to get from your front door to the mailbox. The first time you trek out there, you're carving a path through the snow, and it's kind of hard work. But when you then go from your mailbox back to your house, you're going along that same path. It's a little easier. And then the next day, it's a little easier. And this is how neural pathways work. Because the first time it happens, okay, it was hard. It's like when we try to change a habit, the first time it's hard. But then the more times we do it, it becomes easier and easier because we've worn that pathway down. And that's what's happening right now with your kids doing something and then you yelling. It's just a neural pathway that's really well formed. And yelling works. I say that hesitantly because yelling works in the way that our bodies are designed for yelling to work. It isn't rage. It is this bid for control. In the situation, you probably feel out of control. You feel alone, you feel powerless, and your brain is looking for the fast way for you to regain some sense of order. Yelling is fast, it's loud, and it temporarily stops the chaos. It works. It works in the moment. It doesn't mean just because I say that it works in terms of a control scenario, it doesn't mean it's the optimum response. Obviously, we know the damages of yelling. We know that it may reduce kids into shame, that it really breaks the parent-child bond. We know all these things, but in terms of control, it works. It's like how many people say, like, my kids don't listen to me unless I yell. That is an example of how yelling works. And that's also why that it's so easy for that yelling pattern to repeat because your brain has already seen it as successful in getting what you want. Like the short-term payoff is the room gets quiet, but the long-term cost is that kids learn that mom's overwhelm is their fault and the relationship absorbs the hit. And the shame that follows makes the next reaction more likely, not less likely. Because shame adds to that I'm failing meaning. And that meaning is part of the I'm alone story. Do you see how what you interpret and what you say about the scenario really fuels what happens in the scenario? I've told you the story many times about the fight between me and my sister, but I also need to tell you how you can work this in the other direction. How you can actually take control of it and have different interpretations. There was quite a silly scenario that happened to me last Friday. Me and my husband, we ordered DoorDash. He was coming home from work and he's like, yeah, I'll put it in for this ramen place. Awesome. And he put it in and he has about a 30-minute drive home. And when he got home, it still said that the order was being prepared. And we were looking at the DoorDash app and the order's being prepared. It kept getting pushed out, like 10 minutes. So pretty soon I decided to call the restaurant and I'm like, hey, like everything okay there? It keeps getting pushed out for our order. And they're like, no, everything's fine. Like we're waiting for a dasher to take the order. I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, the order's been prepared for an hour already. I'm like, okay. And so this is my interpretation of it. One thing that I live my life by is I always assume good intent. Always. Even with annoying apps like DoorDash. There we go. I'm not assuming good intent on that one because here's what happened. But I assume good intent in the moment. I ask the people at the ramen place, I'm like, hey, can we just come by and pick it up? And they're like, oh, sure. And I'm like, can I just cancel the order in the app? So that, DoorDash doesn't get their cut because obviously they did nothing here. They're like, yeah, definitely. Just cancel it on your end and come in, you can get your food. Okay. So I canceled on my end and we only get $10 back, which is just DoorDash's service fees, right? We get to the restaurant. The person who greets me is like, oh, no, we don't have an order for you. And I'm like, what? I just called in. And they're like, oh, you canceled your order through DoorDash. So that'll be $60. I'm like, wait. What? No, DoorDash just took away the fees. I'm assuming they already paid you. And there was no remorse on their end. There was no ownership on their end. There was just this is an issue between you and DoorDash. Again, assume good intent. And right here, I had a real hard time assuming the good intent of everyone in this situation. Only thing I could do was and I looked very calmly, what are you going to do with that food that was prepared for me? Are you just going to throw it out? She wouldn't even answer me. She said, have a nice night. My gosh, I could have gone livid at this second, just livid. But my interpretation to the situation was first, this was not the owner of the place. This was definitely not the owner of the place. This was a part-time employee. Because when you're the owner of a business, you know the value of repeat customers. When you're an employee of the business, you are sticking to the rules and what they say. And if you're not paid for it, you're not going to get it. And so I walked out that door knowing that nothing was going to happen in that situation if I yelled or if I threw a fit or if I didn't keep my cool. I just didn't say anything and I walked right out. And we ended up canceling our DoorDash pass because of this incident. And I'm never going to go to the ramen place again because that's how it goes. But something that I feel I was able to do was control my interpretations in the moment. I could have easily been like, oh my gosh, this is the worst night. This is all on me. I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have canceled the order. Why did I cancel the order? There are all these things I could have gone back on, which would have caused me a lot of shame or would have put unnecessary blame on the other people. The situation just happened. It just happened and it sucks. Can I just say that? It sucks. But keeping the composure is really what I want to say was the victory in that case, because nobody benefits from you yelling at them. Our kids don't benefit from yelling. We don't benefit from yelling. Our blood pressure goes up with yelling, and it doesn't work. So coming up next, we're going to talk about how to interrupt that I'm alone narrative and how you can put it into practice right now in your house. You know what's interesting about tax season? It's one of the only times most people actually stop and look at their full financial picture. Earnings, spending, savings, all of it. And honestly, it made me realize I wanted that kind of clarity year-round, not just once a year when the IRS makes me do it. Instead of just looking back and cringing, I'm now looking forward and I'm making moves. And for a mom who's trying to plan for kids' activities, save for a family vacation, and not completely ignore retirement, that clarity is everything. That's where Monarch comes in. I'm not just tracking spending and feeling bad. I'm actually hitting milestones. And when that tax refund hits, I know exactly where it's going to make the biggest difference for my family. Simplify your finances with Monarch. Monarch is the all-in-one personal finance tool designed to make your life easier. It brings your entire financial life, budgeting, accounts, and investments, net worth, and future planning together in one dashboard on your phone or laptop. Feel aware and in control of your finances this tax season and get 50% off your Monarch subscription with code NOGUILT. Achieve your financial goals for good with Monarch, the all-in-one tool that makes money management simple. Use code NOGUILT at monarch.com for half off your first year. That's 50% off at monarch.com, code NOGUILT. You know what I love about kids? Every single one of them is wired differently. My kids learn in totally different ways, and honestly, that used to stress me out, but then I realized that's not a problem to fix. That's something to celebrate. So if your child is the kind of kid who thrives with a little more flexibility, a little more personalization, or just a different environment altogether, I want to tell you about K-12 powered schools. K-12 powered schools are tuition-free, online, accredited public schools for kindergarten through 12th grade. And before you say, isn't that just homeschooling? No. K-12 powered schools has state certified teachers trained specifically in online education, giving your kids personalized instruction and real-time support. Your child learns at their own pace with curriculum tailored to their goals, needs, and interests, whether they need more challenge, more support, or just more breathing room. With over 25 years of experience helping more than 3 million families, K-12 powered schools could be the perfect fit for your kid too. Enrollment portals are open right now. Visit k12.com/NGM to find a K-12 powered school near you. That's the letter K, the number 12.com/NGM. K12.com/NGM.
This podcast is supported by MIDI Health. Are you in midlife, feeling dismissed, unheard, or just plain tired of the old healthcare system? You're not alone. In fact, even today, 75% of women seeking care for menopause and perimenopause issues are left entirely untreated. But it's time for a change. It's time for MIDI. MIDI's not just a healthcare provider. It's a women's telehealth clinic founded and supported by world-class leaders in women's health. Their clinicians provide one-on-one, face-to-face consultations where they truly listen to your unique needs. They offer a full range of holistic, data-driven solutions that isn't one-size-fits-all care. This is care uniquely tailored for you. At MIDI, you will find that their mission is clear: to help all women thrive in midlife, giving them access to the healthcare they deserve. Because they believe midlife isn't the middle at all. It is the beginning of your second act. Ready to feel your best and write your second act script? Visit joinmidi.com today to book your personalized, insurance-covered virtual visit. That's joinmidi.com. Midi, the care women deserve.
Okay, let's talk about how to interrupt this narrative about it all being on me, I am all alone, or any other narrative that you may be telling yourself, any other story that you're telling yourself. I see people tell themselves stories all the time. In fact, like one of my close relationships just broke up because I believe the other person was telling themselves a story about me in particular. And everything I did just reaffirmed the story they told themselves in their heads. The story was that I didn't respect them. And so every one of my actions was seen that way. And it got to the point at the end where there's nothing I could say to dissuade them because they'd already built up their case and they affirmed that they were right. So know that the stories you tell yourself have a huge impact on your relationships, on your communication, and on your own emotions. Because here's 3 steps that you can use right now. The first step is to notice the meaning before it takes over. You can't interrupt what you can't see. There is a great phrase in neuroscience that is called name it to tame it. And when you're able to name your emotion, the intensity of that emotion goes down. If you are able to name hurt, you automatically take a little bit of the sting off of your anger because you're like, no, I'm really hurt. My feelings are hurt. My integrity was questioned. I am hurt. The first job is to start catching the moment that interpretation fires before that escalation chain runs its full course. So if you're at home with your kids and maybe it's your daughter who's asking her to read you a story at bed, and at bedtime you are exhausted and tired, but then she says something and you feel guilty and you go in, but then you're like, oh, if I was only firm, she wouldn't push so hard. There you go, right there. That is where the interpretation has come in. That is the story now you're telling yourself. If I was only firm, she wouldn't push back so hard. There's this amazing book that I've been reading. It's called The Courage to be Disliked. And one of the explanations they gave in the book is that you are in control of your own life tasks. What that means is that some people have, other people outside you, they have their tasks. You have your tasks. Your tasks are basically regulating your own emotions, everything to do with you. Other people's tasks are regulating their own emotions or making sure they get what they need. Now, kids, they don't know how to do this very well. They're still asking for our help with this, and we help them by regulating our own emotions. We cannot control our kids. We can only show them a model of how to deal with the emotions that pop up and how they feel. So in the case of you not wanting to read a story, which is totally okay. It's totally okay. The only thing you can control in that moment is if you say yes or no. You can't control how your daughter's going to react to it. You can't control if your daughter keeps asking you to read the story over and over again. Those are your daughter's tasks. Your task is to say yes or no. And there's no right answer there. There's just the answer that makes sense for you right there in the moment. Something that I like to use when I'm feeling guilty and when I feel like I need to do something is I ask myself, am I going to feel resentful if I say yes and do this? And if the answer is yes, if I could see myself stomping around the room, I don't have the capacity to say yes at that time. I need to say no. I need to say no to preserve the relationship with my kids. Just last night, actually, my daughter is doing 75 hard and she's meal prepping. She's 17. And she asked me, she's like, Mom, can you come and help me meal prep? And the first thought that went through my mind is I'm like, oh my gosh, she needs to do this by herself, or she needs to lead on this. I cannot be here taking over her meal prep. And so this is what I tell her. And she's like, well, God forbid a daughter asked to spend time with their mother. This whole guilt came up in me. And I'm like, but before I let it take hold, I'm like, wait a minute. You didn't ask to spend time with me. You asked me to help you meal prep. And she's like, well, yeah. I'm like, okay. So if you want to spend time with me, yes, I do want to spend time with you. it switched it in my head from being this thing that I was resentful for, like resentful for having to prep her meals when she should do it herself and she should learn, to this, I just want to spend time with my mom. That interpretation alone helped me from feeling resentful in the situation to feeling participatory, feeling like, okay, I can do this. I am tired, but let me go sit down on a stool. And of course, I want to spend time with her. But it's okay if you say you don't want to spend time at that moment either, because you are so maxed out. That is okay too. I want to tell you that over and over again. It is okay to say no if you are maxed out, but be aware of the story you're telling yourself, because that could really help you determine if you have the capacity at that moment or not. Because step 2 is reality test that meaning. Ask, is this actually true right now in this specific moment? I decided that no, it wasn't true. She didn't want me to meal prep all of her things. She wanted me to spend time with her. And I was able to find out that was true just by having a conversation with her, just by asking her that question. Because sometimes that meaning is true, that people expect you to do stuff, because maybe you do carry more than your share. There's something that I really, really like to repeat to everybody I come across, because it was a big thing I learned about relationships, is that relationships should always be 50-50. If you are taking over 100% of the ownership for the relationship, like if you are in there trying to manage everybody's emotions, making sure you don't say something to trigger someone else, really paying attention to like how you're acting, but nobody's paying attention to how they're acting nor taking ownership, you are taking responsibility of 100% of the relationship, and there is no room for the other person to take any responsibility whatsoever. And so look at your relationships as these 50-50 things. Allow the other person to take some ownership in there. Allow yourself to question them. Push back against some of the things they say. I mean, as a mom to a teenager, there are a lot of stories going through my daughter's head that are very typical of teenagers. And being able to question those stories and being able to help her interpret those stories is a great thing. It's great. So those are the first 2 steps. Notice the meaning before it takes over, and then reality test the meaning. The third step is to name what you actually need, because the I'm alone story often comes with a buried need underneath it. For example, last night when she was asking me to meal prep, one of the things I needed is I just needed some alone time. I was pretty stressed with work, stressed with leaving on a vacation really soon, trying to get everything in before I left. I just wanted a time to decompress. That's it. Just decompress. And I told her that. I'm like, I need a time to decompress. And she's like, okay. So at the beginning, when I was helping her, I'm like, I'm going to put this on the stove and I'm going to go watch a little bit of my TV show and then I'll be back. So I was able to ease myself in to the assignment, and I was very aware of what I needed in that moment. Because if you need a break, if you need to be asked how you're doing, sometimes all you need to do is say that to another person. That's it. But sometimes it's hard to give yourself that permission to say it, because you feel like you are taking on 100% of the relationship. Remember that. Remember, you don't need to take on 100% of the relationship. Ask for what you need so that they can meet you at a 50-50 point. So this is not a one and done fix for yelling. The I'm alone story is often very deeply wired, and it usually has roots that go pretty far back. And this is why the moms I work with who make real lasting change, they don't do it alone. They do it with support and accountability in place, which is exactly what I'm building space for right now. In just a week, I'm going to open up the Regulated Mom Experience, and it's only open to 10 women, but it is a group coaching and one-on-one coaching for 3 months. You get to work personally with me, and then you also get to work with a group of women and kind of like have people along your side going through this together as we all work to interpret our own stories and notice our reactions and work towards our growth so that we could step back in our relationship, so that we're not holding 100% of the relationship anymore, but we're actually letting other people come in to fill that other 50%. So there's a wait list right here in the show notes. You can go sign up for that to make sure that you have first dibs on registration. But I hope to see you in it, because it's a really great time for me to work personally with you and to help you get to be that regulated and calm mom who doesn't feel like she has to go immediately to yelling to get the situation solved. There are other ways, and we work through those. So remember, your reactions are not random. They're not proof that you're broken. They are almost always the result of a meaning your brain assigned faster than you can catch it. And the most common meaning driving overwhelm moms is doing this completely alone. That meaning is not a fact. It's a story, and stories can be rewritten. So next week, we're going to go even deeper because there's something important I want to show you about how these patterns actually change. So you can look for that episode next week. Make sure you're subscribed to this podcast. Please, 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 if you have a few minutes, please take a few minutes to review. It helps more moms find the podcast. And if you want to do this work with support, real structured support, a priority waitlist for the Regulated Mom Experience is open right now. 10 spots are available, and it's a 3-month program, and the link's in the show notes. So remember, the best mom is a happy mom. Take care of you, and I'll talk with you later.
This is a Monday.com ad. The same Monday.com helping people worldwide getting work done faster and better. The same Monday.com designed for every team and every industry. The same Monday.com with built-in AI, scaling your work from day one. The same Monday.com that your team will actually love using. The same Monday.com with an easy and intuitive setup. Go to Monday.com and try it for free. Yes, the same Monday.com.